I'm not going to agree with that because my record label friends would kill me, but there's a lot of logic to that.
Okay. And what's another thing that's interesting about all of this, right, is that there's different perspectives. You've represented for many, many decades rights holder or exhibitors, media companies, and technology platforms and whatnot. But there are a number of other different players in the world, and they perceive things differently. In this example, there's the radio stations of the world. There's of course, the songwriters. There's the publishers. There's the labels. There's the recording artists themselves, and everybody is an integral part of that ecosystem, really in many ways, and deservedly feels like they deserve their take as well.
Which is why, as we'll get to, it is a unique industry in which to be a part of, because ordinarily, I've been involved in a lot of litigations as well as negotiations. Ordinarily, and I started out as a general litigator, not as a music litigator. In most cases, a fraud case, you'll never see these people again. You want to beat the crap out of them and, expose them for the liars on the other side that they are. And then you walk away with your win and you feel good about it, and that's fine. Litigating in this space is totally different, because the same company that I am cross-examining on behalf of a distributor of musical content, the next day I could be across the table from the same person I'm cross-examining, trying to negotiate a go-forward deal in a different part of their business. So the music industry, and by the way, the number of people that go from the record industry or the publishing industry to the Googles and Amazons and Spotifys and Netflixes of the world and vice versa is phenomenal. So you end up where everybody's part of a very small community at the end of the day. We're all trying to do our jobs as best we can to create businesses and structures that respect copyright, but also pursuant to a rate structure that works for each side. So it's a very unique space. Your adversaries are your friends, and your friends can sometimes be your adversaries. I mean, it's a very unique space to be in.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here and give a NASCAR analogy, if I may. It's kind of like NASCAR, and I'm gonna say why I think so in this example. In most sports, like in football or whatever, you're a team, you play against another team. There are divisions and stuff, but let's just say over the course of a season, you're basically only gonna play another team once, maybe twice. So if you have some bad blood, it's over. Maybe you'll meet in the postseason many, many, many weeks later. With NASCAR, it's different. There's 43 drivers, and they raced against everybody every single time. So if you spin somebody out one Sunday, you better believe they're going to get you next Sunday, because you're against the same people every single race. It's kind of like that. What you just described was funny to me in the music industry. It's a small clique of people. Everybody sort of knows each other, and everybody interacts with each other from time to time. And like you said, on one day you might be an adversary cross-examining them, and then on the next day you might be representing someone else trying to do a deal with that person. So you have to try to be cordial-ish.
The goal in those cases, and we'll talk about the rate-setting cases in a moment, because it's important to understand that a lot of these litigations are not they're not like fraud cases. They're cases in which a tribunal is there to determine fair and reasonable rates for an entire industry. The goal in those cases is to cross-examine your adversary in a humorous way. It's like you want to make your point, but it's better to do it with humor rather than by making somebody look like they're lying, even if they're not exactly telling the truth. You got to play with kid gloves. It's a really interesting space to be in.
It sounds like you know that from experience.
Yes. Not just 30 years. It actually goes back, I'm so old by now, 40 years. My first case was 1978, when we brought the Buffalo Broadcasting antitrust lawsuit against ASCAP.
All right. So, You can't just throw that. You can't just lob that in there. Okay, so what was that in 1978? That was your first case. What were at a high level? What was the issue there?